Okay, let's look on the render options screen. So this render options is somewhat familiar, but much less than with options that inside the view. So for those who work in the view, you maybe feel familiar with some presettings. So notice right here we have it, our preset render quality, preview, final, broadcast, superior, and user settings. User settings will open most of the options. You can modify it and also allow you to save or to load those settings. They not necessarily can be the best. It's all based on what settings you are created and save it. And so for overview, I will keep it on user settings, so we have it all of them kind of re-enable. Notice right here, render destinations, we have it main view, render to screen, render off screen, and render to the disk with after save 30 minutes. If you have it very complex and big render, you maybe want to save to the disk render and after save it. On this case, if for example something happened like recently, I was rendering and it took about 16 hours for this very large render, and just power went off for so long that my backup power and everything went off as well, and I was not in a house. So what's happening, without save render to the disk, I lost probably my render. Otherwise it was saving minus at about 15 minutes. So, and it was, I lost only 15 minutes of render. So when I come back, it says resume render. It will be enabled right here, and it's continued rendering. So it does work very nice. But again, many times when I do for the tutorials, I'll just set render to screen, so it's pop up in its own window, and we can preview that. Okay. Of course, when it says enable save to the disk, you can see you can still render, and you can still render to the disk as well. And it's additional options to after save it with the options and locations where you want to do this. Next, what do you want to render? Right here by default, all is enabled. However, you can says hide ground plane from render. It actually does not hide it. It's created mask, an alpha mask when you save that you can remove plane. This is very useful when, for example, you created plant, you want to render and you want compositing, but you don't want to cut off the ground after you want to remove it. So you can always do this way: create a plant with ground, render, enable hide plane, and after you will have it alpha mask to remove the ground. Same things apply to hide mesh. So enable gbuffer, enable multipass. If we enable them, we can click additional menu where we can specify on the buffer and multipass what do we want to render. So it's all produce additional information. Notice about this, if we render have too many layers and we render as PSD, not all information may save because it will create much more layers than Photoshop can handle. So, and I found this in a hard way. When I render and I have it multiple layers, I go in Photoshop and it's only 99 layers was open. New Photoshop create more layers, you can upkeep it. But if you work with earlier version, you may run in some of those problems. Anytime when you can select, you can apply what you want pre-render. Notice each with plus, you can click extend and you have much more information. You can render components. We'll check those when we render and you will see the color coded, so easy to access and manipulate with them. This is with a multipass buffer as well. You can save directly to the disk and you can set format in a way you like it. Okay, so next, also notice right here, separate images will create for each of them, or you can create multi-layer, which is PSD, what I was saying before. Nicely notice right here it says layers and how many channels. So this as well does help you know if you come to the kind of limits. gbuffer allowed you to add additional information if you need pass in like After Effects or other applications, which is straightforward. Have a zip tag, material, all the certifications that you may use in other ones. You can select all, or you can non-select, select singles, additional information, and as well you can specify where do you want to save this information. Okay, next we'll look on render quality. By default, it says about medium advanced, and by clicking you can see what is a broadcast superior and ultra set, and you can see right here it's switched to the 77% example. You can do simple with the slider. If you want it, you can also go in advanced and manually adjust those settings. Right here, for example, you can have it adjust panels level of details with quality. You can go and inside have it with custom adjustments, how many you want jiggers, other stuff. Photon will mostly evolve if you have it reflector, translucent, or some transparency materials, same like with acoustic for transparency. And more about this, you can go inside details. This is require more advanced output to see how you can adjust. This is exactly the same like you're using in Vue, and I have it good tutorials about rendering, optimization, other one side of Vue. So I recommend you to check those tutorials because most of the information from Vue will apply here as well. And we possibly will look more on the renders settings in our render optimization section. Okay, so let's cancel this one. Next, anti-aliasing. This is how the edge will work on the renders, and we have it object anti-aliasing, texture. Problem is with enabled texture anti-aliasing, sometimes it can create fuzzy look on the texture. I don't know if you necessarily want this, but just option is there. If you have a very low resolution texture, then that will work. Okay, energy conservation as well. And we have it anti-aliasing Z depth if you have it depth. Okay, let's look a little bit more on anti-aliasing prop options. You'll notice right here we have it optimization symmetric, optimize go a little bit faster. We also have it strategy if we want crease, edge, sharp, soft or blurry. Automatic will work with the size and edge as well. Next we have it sub rays per pixel. The more some produce better effect, but it will take longer, as well as a quality threshold. We also have it properties for the filtering, and between crease to smooth. Smooth will create more anti-aliasing, but again it will take time. As well, you can additional apply properties if you want for the texture anti-aliasing, but again remember better quality, longer time. We also have an indirect lighting solution if you want to use indirect lighting. Currently it's disabled, so we need to enable some of the properties. And if you enable right here in a render areas, you can also specify if you want to select just a render size and where you want to locate this. It does helpful when, for example, you want to see texture on a leaf very close up, so you can render this area, blow up, and see how the texture applied there. Okay, next right here we have it our render resolution. And this is we have it some predefined picture size. If you click down, you can select anything, included if you want the free user define. So let's say for now it's what we selected, and this is we have the options where we can change individually X, Y. You can see our ratio is updating, and we also can lock the ratio if we like it. So in this case, if we update X and Y based on ratio we currently set. We also have it units of render, DPI, and if we need additional information strip, which is render on the bottom, you can check here enable, and this is also what information will include in this render information tip. So for now, let's just disable. Also, if you want to create panoramic view, you can enable panoramic, and you can see the camera was horizontally realigned. You can also create spherical. So in this case, we have a full 360 render. It just may be in a case if you want to create a grass and you want to look around, you maybe want to create on the middle. But overall, this is very similar renders settings like inside the Vue application. So now also you have it beep if render complete, also if it's exceeded. So notice on the bottom we have two buttons, resume and render. Currently I don't have it any render that was stopped in the middle, but if you have it some, it will have it resume render. And of course we have the render if we want completed. When you save your properties, you always can click OK. And now if I go ahead and start rendering by clicking on the button render, that will be start rendering my scenery with the settings that I currently preset.